Hi, I'm Tim Berglund with StarTree. Welcome to Pino 101, Multi-Stage Query Engine. Now, Pino's basic architecture, as you should know by now if you've been working through this course, supports low latency queries on batch and streaming data at high concurrency. It's just built for speed, engineered from the ground up to do those things, to deliver on the task of real-time analytics. Now, that original architecture is really optimized for queries that filter and aggregate. It's amazingly good at those things. So if I've got a where clause with a few columns in it, and I've got, like, I'm computing a sum over some metric, that kind of basic shape of a query, that's great. It's great at that. The query processing, the actual filtering and then the scanning of the metric, that reading and that aggregation, that occurs on the servers, and then that small scalar value gets sent back up to the brokers, and that last little bit of reducing at the end in the last mile there, that happens there. And that works great for small data sets when it is just that scalar value, that sum from the server that gets computed and sent back to the broker. The broker gets maybe, 4 of those sums and has to add them up and return them to the user. The broker's built for that. Brokers can't handle the kind of load like you might find in an inner join between two very large tables, what we might call a fact-to-fact join. That would be many, many rows coming back and not just a few small groups of things or a few scalars. System's just not designed for that. So that's where the multi-stage query engine comes in. Let me just remind you in a little bit more detail than we've seen in previous modules of the single stage architecture. So I have this nice, polite filter and aggregate query. It comes in, a query compiler in the broker compiles it, distributes it to the relevant servers that have the segments of interest. It makes those requests to the servers do their work, and they send, in this case, if you look at the query, they send numbers back to that result reducer. It now has 3 numbers that it has to add up, and well, there you go. There's your result. Okay, that works great. But what if the query is this? What if it's this inner join between order status and customer? And those are really big queries. That's not going to work in that old scheme. So what happens now in a multi-stage query is not a query compiler, but a query optimizer makes a multi-stage plan. And it works out what this plan is going to be a priori. So right now it does its optimization and it says, here's the plan. I'm going to begin by handing this off to these 4 servers. This is the first stage of the query. And it's basically doing the filter on order status that you see over on the left and the filter on customer that you see over on the right. So these 2 filter queries are done before we're able to join. Now, those could still be meaningfully large result sets. I don't happen to know off the top of my head how many order statuses have an IC of less than 10 and how many customers have an LTO less than 5. It could be a lot more than the broker could handle. So those need to get shuffled because we know what needs to happen next is I need to see all of the order status results that survived the filter and all of the customer results that survived its filter with common join keys. So that's the UID field you see in the query on the upper left there. So all of them that have the same value of UID, now those are going to need to be in the same place. And right now, there's no reason to believe that they would be. So in the multi-stage engine, we have this thing called the data exchange layer. Now, to let you know, this is not a separate component in the cluster. This is taking place on servers. It's like a mailbox and streaming service that exists on servers that allows us to figure out where things are going to go next and stream large amounts of data there. So it is a logical component. It's not a new physical component. And those now get streamed and shuffled to our next stage of the query. And so now on intermediary server 1, we're going to have, and I don't know how many different values of UID there are, but the query plan is going to decide for this chunk of those values, we're going to make sure all of the order status rows and customer rows that have the same range of UIDs are on server 1, and then a separate range of UIDs are on server 2. Because fundamentally a join here is happening in memory. I'm going to go through, say, the left-hand table, and I need to do key lookups of things in the right-hand table in memory for that to work. So I need to get these sets of things in the same place. And that's part of what the data exchange layer does. So now I've got my inner join. I'm able to throw away all the results that don't match the join condition, and come up with, well, of course, through the data exchange layer, send those back to a single server. So the final stage is always a single server, because we need one server to stream kind of the completed, unified, joined, aggregated, reduced, whatever the query demands, that result set back to the broker. So this could still potentially be a fair number of records. We don't know, but it is this nice polite stream of one set of them, and the broker itself doesn't have any joining or aggregating to do. That's really a completed result set. And so we get, looks like a lifetime value of those companies, Acme, Initech, Umbrella, Hooli, and Globex, whoever they are, as a result of that join. So now to pull off an inner join like this, Pino needed to add this multi-stage engine. This is new as of Pino 1.0, and it's optional. It's a cluster-wide configuration to make it even possible to run the multi-stage engine. And then on a query-by-query basis, you can choose whether you want the single stage or the multi-stage. And it's not necessarily a given that the multi-stage engine is going to perform better in all cases. But it is a given that now there are new kinds of queries that are possible to do given the engine. And this unlocks an exciting set of new use cases. And more of the standard ANSI SQL space is now available to us in Pino through the multi-stage query engine.